Priests the world over have been offering the faithful absolution for their sins throughout recorded history, and probably long before that. And they're not confined only to the Jewish and Christian traditions. Many religious traditions then and now have priests as part of their religious practice. They perform what for many is a necessary function, reassuring people that in spite of their sins, they can be reconciled to God. In today's epistle reading from the daily lectionary, the writer of the letter to the Hebrews draws a sharp contrast between human priests, and specifically Levitical priests in Judaism, and Jesus Christ, the great high priest. Hello, I'm Stuart Baskin, pastor of First Presbyterian Church of Tyler, Texas, and this is your daily devotional for Saturday, January 20th, 2024. We pick up with the writer of the Hebrews taking his congregation on a deep dive into the priestly office of Jesus Christ. Yesterday we explored just a portion of his presentation, which focused on his model precursor to Jesus, Melchizedek, the priest of Salem, to whom Abraham provided honor in the form of giving him a tenth of everything he had. The crux of the lesson was based on the traditional rabbinic take on Melchizedek, which held that he had no family or genealogy and must therefore have been an eternal figure. Like Melchizedek, Jesus existed before the foundations of creation and now lives eternally in heaven. In today's lesson, the writer draws a distinction between human priests, who are flawed, and Jesus Christ, who is perfect. It is a little bit tedious, so bear with me. His comparison begins with the observation that Levitical priests were established by the law, by Torah. But the thing about the law is that it is fallible and liable to being broken, even by priests themselves. Basing the priestly function on an unsound foundation is inherently problematic, he says. That's the first thing. The second thing is that Levitical priests take no oath when they enter into office, whereas Jesus Christ is made a priest by an oath made by God. Quoting Psalm 110, the writer reminds us, "The Lord has sworn and will not change his mind. You are a priest forever." Accordingly, he says, Jesus has become the guarantee of a better covenant. For his priestly office rests not upon fallible law, but upon God's eternal promise. The third thing about the Levitical priests he points to is that they are mere human beings, which means, among other things, that they inevitably die, and their priesthood is therefore temporary, where Jesus Christ now lives forever, and his priesthood is therefore eternal. It did not end with his death, but continued forever in his resurrection and ascension to heaven. Which brings us to his conclusion about the superiority of the priesthood of Jesus Christ over the priesthood of the Levitical priests. He says, "For it was fitting that we should have such a high priest, holy, blameless, undefiled, separated from sinners, and exalted above the heavens." Unlike other high priests, he has no need to offer sacrifices day after day, first for his own sins and then for those of the people. This he did once for all when he offered himself. For the law appoints as high priest those who are subject to weakness, but the word of the oath, which came later than the law, appoints a son who has been made perfect forever. Christ is superior to the Levitical priests, he says, because he is holy. He is blameless, undefiled, and set apart from sinners. That is, he is without sin, unlike Levitical priests who share in the sin of common humanity and have to make sacrifices even for themselves. And he serves as priest not in a sanctuary made with hands, but in an eternal sanctuary in the heavens. But Christ's highest attribute as priest is the fact that he has made a sacrifice for the sins of the world once and for all. No need for earthly priests to make sacrifices day after day after day. It's as if he were saying that the sacrifices offered by earthly priests have a time stamp, after which they are no longer valid. Christ made one sacrifice which is good for all the world, for all time. No expiration date. And the sacrifice he made is not an animal sacrifice. It is the sacrifice of his own body. Now keep in mind that the writer of the letter to the Hebrews is urging his congregation to hold fast to the faith at a moment when many in the congregation were apparently wavering, and some had even drifted away from the faith. Here he gives them an important reason to remain faithful. Those who had drifted away almost certainly weren't becoming non-religious. People weren't non-religious then the way that many are now. But to drift away from the Christian faith was to return to another religion, one that would certainly have priests. His point is that the priests they would return to would turn out to be vastly inferior to the great high priest, Jesus Christ. Why would they want to do that? That's his point. When we return Monday, the writer equates Jesus with the promised new covenant foretold by the prophet Jeremiah. But for now, may God continue to bless you and keep you in all that you do this day and in all the days ahead.